Welcome, thanks for coming. My name's Richard Beattie. I'm here on behalf of Anthesis. I was invited to come and talk, set my own agenda around the equipment space. And I had a little think, I had a look at the rest of the agenda that the M3UA has going on here, and I wanted to try, whether you're already live on M3 or whether you're going through a program of implementing M3, particularly in the equipment space. So I'm thinking plant maintenance, field service or rental. I thought, why don't I try and hone in on maybe 5 key topics that you guys can take away and have a think about. Either immediately start using because you've not yet and you think it'll deliver some really nice value, or talk to your project team and say, hey, look, I want to make sure that we've got time for this before we go live. Just a brief introduction about myself. I have been in the M3 space since the early 2000s. I actually joined Agreco in early 2000s. That was my first introduction to M3, and I've stayed in the equipment space ever since. I had a period of time working for Intenture and Lawson in their support team, supporting all of the, at the time, short-term rental customers, mostly around the world. And I guess for the last 7 or 8 years, I've been back out at client site, doing various large-scale equipment projects. And it's really all I know. Don't ask me to go and do a fashion or a food and beverage project. I'd be hopeless. Really, equipment is all I know. And what I'm trying to do here today is just bring a few nuggets, those things that maybe are sat around the fringes that you've not noticed. And for me, are the moments where you start really releasing the potential of the solution, because you spend 100% of your project time focusing on that 80% of day-to-day business. I've got to make sure that I've got to be able to ship fleet out to a customer, or I can sell to a customer, or I can perform my maintenance orders. What I'm just about to show now are just those fringes where you probably just haven't thought about it, but I think are going to deliver really good value. And the first one, and I'm going to kind of ease in, I think they sort of grow in importance, these 5 keys. The first one is the work schedule. So anybody who is working in plant maintenance, any field service business, or a rental depot service environment, the work schedule is almost single-handedly the least used functionality in M3. You're all going to be there already. Typically, you'll be there. But what you're not doing is really pushing what it can do. And the work schedule allows you to really focus in on your work in progress. It standardizes the view, so whether you're an engineer or whether you're a service manager or the plant manager or a rental depot manager, you all see the same thing. Sorting orders and views in M3 are probably familiar to you all. But there's a special type of sorting order in the work schedule, which is a working file, which is built and it's regenerated as you're making changes to your work, called the work schedule. And it brings together not just your work order data or just your operational data. It brings together all your MCO, so your maintenance customer order data, so all of your customer-orientated information. And then it brings together all of the header data, all the operations, and all operational elements. So operational elements are where you're doing things like allocating employees, and you have mobility status coming back from field service, etc. And it brings all of that into a work file called the work schedule. And it means that you can start to interact with your work in progress at almost at the nth level, rather than just saying, I want to see my open work orders. You can start to really focus in. So you can include the work requests. Often people just say, I've got my work requests over here in this part of the system, and that's where I have to live, and my work orders and my work in progress is over here. You can bring them together so you can plan your current work in progress, as well as your work requests. Operational elements or site tree structure. So we can view this, particularly for plant maintenance customers. We can see all of the orders in with the site map. So I've got my paint shop, and I've got my press room, and I've got all of these elements in my site tree, and I can position all of my work orders and see where that work in progress is at that type of view. So we just create standard sorting indexes, sorting orders and views. We're not doing anything particularly special in terms of the functionality there, but it's the data that we're going to use, and it's this work schedule. One important thing, particularly for field-based businesses, is that you can get immediate material shortage flags. So the moment we create our work in progress, if we know that the van does it, M3 will know if the van has stock or not of our bill of material for our service. It's going to give you immediate shortage flags and responses on that work schedule view. And unless you're using the work schedule work file, you're not going to get that benefit. You'll just see a work order, and you have to drill into it to find out whether I've got material or not. So what that looks like in practice, well, actually very quickly, so a few examples. If I'm plant, it means find my work orders that are the plant that shut down. So in some cases, you've got work in progress where it's just maintenance and the plant can keep on running, but we've just had a call in from the press room to say the hydraulics have gone and the whole press is down. So we can focus in on what's really important, or I want to find it by a particular position on my site, or by a particular engineer, what his work in progress. If I'm in a field service mobility environment, I want to see everybody who's currently traveling. I want to see all my orders per customer, or I want to see all my orders by the service or regional manager. If I'm a rental depot, particularly if I've got a lot of sort of hub and spoke type rental depots, I want to see my work in progress, my inspections and things like this, my turnarounds. I want to see those by depot. Maybe I want to see all my inspections and my turnarounds. I don't want to see my my major services, or by team. So we can focus in, depending on what specific equipment industry you're in, we can start to pull all of that data, whether it's mobility or customer or detailed work order information, into one single view. And I appreciate screenshots don't exactly work great on these projectors, but this is what it looks like. So in MOS 195, you're probably already there. But we're bringing in lots of different information from across all of the files in M3. So our maintenance customer orders, work orders, all the way down to the detail of our mobility statuses. And we can, just using standard sort orders and fields on that work file, you're going to start to get a consistent process because you will use the same view for everybody. I always recommend that. And then your sorting orders based on these work files means you can really find everything that you need for your work in progress. So it's very user-focused. And for me, that's something that's not used enough, and I do promote the use of it more. The second key, quality inspections on work orders. I think, again, lesser known functionality that all work orders can have quality inspections attached to them. So every operation on a work order. And what it does is, particularly for technicians, it allows technicians to report a range of values or responses based on a set of questions in your inspection. And you can do this through mobility, APIs, or you can do it directly in M3. We can create alerts from the values that are entered. So for instance, let's say I've got to check an O2 sensor on an engine, and I report that it's at a certain value. That can alert if that's beyond a threshold or it's beyond a trend in reported values over the last few work orders. It can send automatic alerts to your service manager or whoever's responsible for that fleet. Certain reported values can also trigger further requests. So I'm thinking like a customer machine on site, and you notice that they're the belts that holds, I'm thinking of farming equipment here, agriculture. A lot of the consumables are belts, and they stretch over time, over use. And as you report that maybe there's been a certain amount of flex or that they're perishable, you report that, and we've immediately got a further request for work in our work requests that you can then engage with the customer on. If you do have an inspection, it's mandatory on the work order reporting, so particularly if you're wanting to make sure that your engineers are always reporting this stuff, it does become mandatory if you use these. It's all held against the service history, the technical history of your equipment, and it's available through reporting. And whilst there's never been a standard printout report from the inspection results, of course now with 13.4, with the configurable XML and StreamServe Storyteller, now you just pull that data from the relevant file for that work order. So whether it's an extension of your service error report or the job card or whatever it might be, using this new 13.4 functionality and Storyteller, we now actually can print this stuff out. So a lot of industries still like to actually write these things. The technician's walking around a machine, maybe it's an inbound inspection on a rental order, and they will walk around and they will mark, yes, I've got the keys, the condition is good, etc., etc. So that's now a great use of that new functionality. And these are just some examples. So if I'm in plant machinery for preventative maintenance, is there any leaks from seals, yes or no? What's the voltage running at, 220 volts or something? What's the vacuum hose condition? You might report that it's perished or dried up. And of course that can trigger further work to replace that vacuum hose. Maybe we're in a customer equipment handover, so we've sold equipment, we've done an install or a commission. We can do things like, have I done the pre-start checks? Have I given all of the manuals and training to the user, to the customer? Have I done a risk assessment of the site where they're going to be using the equipment? Again, these can all be part of the work order process through the inspection. And maybe if I'm doing a rental equipment inspection, so it's inbound, I've got my generator or I've got my van and it's come back into the depot, or maybe I'm doing this check on site before it returns to the depot. Are the keys present? Is the cab condition okay? Is it clean? The tread on the tyres, is it still within limits? So all of these things, if you think about tyre tread, for instance, in van hire, it might be that we report that they need changing. Well, if we report that they need changing here, we have a work request automatically waiting for us to change the tyres for the next engineer to pick that up. So it's a really, really strong tool. If you're working in M3, this is what it looks like. So when you go to report your work order operation, if you have a quality inspection attached to the work order, you simply can't report the operation until you've filled this in. And you always have to balance. One of my clients went, this is amazing, this is what we've always wanted for, and ended up with about 160 questions that took them 45 minutes to fill out. And we said, well, maybe we roll that back a little bit. You want to use this with some balance to say, well, what's going to be quick and easy for the user? So they're going to report the values here, and it will date and timestamp behind the scenes in the files the user who's done it. Any changes are tracked. So if I change the value from good to poor later on, you get like an audit trail of those inspection value changes. But again, particularly for internal control reasons, this can be a really, really useful tool that, again, is not used that much. Key number 3, error and OEM codes. I think it's safe to say that error codes are fairly well known, and typically you treat them like a symptom, a cause, and an action. What's wrong? Why is it wrong? And what have I done to solve it? And that's been a staple in M3 of how we report service orders or work orders, and it has been like that for time immemorial as far as I'm concerned. But I think you need to think beyond that now, because there's much more flexibility with the error codes. And I think it was 13.1 introduced OEM codes, primarily to support warranty claims for big dealers like Caterpillar. But of course, over time, we've realized we can leverage this functionality for all the other customers who often have lots of internal qualitative data that they want to track. And in some cases, some of that's regulatory data. Or still, we can leverage for external supply requirements. So if we're in the warranty claim business, we can still use those. But we can do things like linking error code dependencies. So most customers I go to who are using error codes 1, 2, and 3, you'll probably be familiar with. What you have is a list of 10,000 error code 1s and 10,000 error code 2s and 10,000 error code 3s. So if you're a business where you're taking a call from a customer and you've got your service and they're saying that the boiler's not got any water, if I'm thinking about BDR, or in another type of business they're saying the phone's not working, you might need to go through that list of 10,000 to find the one that says that's what's wrong. And then you get to the cause once the engineer's looking at it, and he's got to look at that and then look through the 10,000 or so. And very rarely do I see that actually you put the investment in to link them. So if I choose error code 1 and it's the boiler's not got any hot water, well, that is only caused by a limited number of reasons. It's not caused because, I don't know, you didn't shut the door or something completely irrelevant to that initial error code. And what I would say is it's really, really important to try and look at putting these dependencies in, because it really, really improves the reporting efficiency. So your engineers find it a lot easier to report these because they sort of the lists limit as you report the previous one. And it's easier just to find as well. So particularly if you're on the phone call and you're a very time-sensitive environment with a customer, again, it makes it easier to find. But the other thing we can do is we can generate services based on the code that we've reported. So if the customer says that this is what's wrong, and then we have a limited reason of causes, maybe we do a bit of triage over the phone, and we choose the cause is this, rather than having to then go and find the appropriate service to fix that cause, we can say that this error code 2, for instance, has this service. So if there is an oil leak, then we need to replace the oil seal. Well, if we know that, by choosing that error code 2, I already have a work request sat there waiting for me because you chose that error code, rather than me having to look through my 10,000 service definitions in MOS 300. And it's all about improving quality of data entry and speed of response, particularly in a call center type environment. And then we can have the single or multi-level OEM codes. So there are 10 OEM codes. They're based on M3 numbering systems, so they can be structured or unstructured, and they can be either single or multi-level. And what we originally did them for was for the big cat dealers when we're making claims to their OEM. They had very specific requirements and they built this functionality. But we're realizing that you can use it a lot for internal qualitative data or the regulatory type data. And if I may use BDR as an example, they have these codes called SEMA codes across their group. And it is largely based around the symptom, the symptom, the components, the mode, and the action. And every single time an engineer does anything to an appliance, they must report those 4 measures. It's completely mandatory across the group. Now, error code 1, 2, and 3 doesn't fit because I've already got 4. So we can use error codes 1, 2, and 3 for the triage over the call handling process. But then when we do our reporting or our engineer, we can use 4 of the 10 positions of the OEM codes to record that internal qualitative data. And that's what we're looking to do at BDR, for example. But just briefly on the error codes, an example. So here I've got for this particular item, so we can limit error codes by item or even serial number in some cases. But it's a low oil pressure was the error code, the symptom reported. And that means that we have now a filtered list by making that connection of it's either oil leakage or it's got a lack of oil. And based on choosing oil leakage, or we can put error code 3 replaced part. If I'd chosen lack of oil, error code 2, 2002, well, behind that I can define, and I know it's not come through very well on here, but I can define the service definition that solves that error code. So the moment I report that on the phone with the customer, or if I'm just raising the issue myself internally in a depot, I already know, and M3 will already create the work order or work request straight for me. Then you have the OEM codes. So here we've got an unstructured numbering system for general codes, but here I've got general service codes. Within service, I've got, for instance, a function is the problem to do with the system or a control unit. And then I've got the SCMA numbering system, the example from BDR, where I have the symptom code, the component code, the mode code, and the action code. And within the symptom code, we say there's no hot water, there's no heating, there's a water leak, it's overheating or excessive fuel consumption. So these are typically the things that BDR's customers are calling in and saying, hang on a minute, I don't have any heating in my house. The boiler's, packed in. Well, every time they go and fix that problem, they need to be reporting all 4 of these codes. So we're leveraging OEM codes to provide that quality data internally for their group analysis. It improves their insight for product development because they're getting much more data back from their engineers around the product, etc. So again, another really, really useful tool. Key number 4, dynamic warranty. Anybody here who has any kind of relationship with a supplier, whether you're in plant maintenance or just a normal service business, maybe typically not so much the rental, but I guess you still buy from either OEMs or manufacturers to buy your fleet in, and you're managing warranty in M3. An overlooked element of warranty is dynamic warranty, and we introduced this. I'm trying to think. It was around 13.2, I think, this got introduced, and it was really. What we found was that warranty was extremely valuable. It does a fantastic job in M3. It's one of the strongest solutions out there for sure. But it didn't go that extra mile. And so when we were looking at the warranty conditions from the legal department of clients, we realized they had these moments where we needed to be more specific. We needed to kind of break out from the standard and extended warranty that you get from a manufacturer or an OEM. And we needed to just have that level of precision. And so dynamic warranty was introduced, and it's a really, really powerful tool. It means that we can be more precise when we're giving customers while simplifying the warranty content. So a lot of problems with warranty is that it's a significant overhead to manage, to create the warranty content in M3 to get the right results. It's not an insignificant task. But this simplifies it because we can get a little less specific up front, but we get lots of data coming out of the back of our work orders. We typically use this only on specific service warranty. So I'm not talking manufacturer or extended manufacturer warranty here. I'm talking about when you go and do a repair on anything, and that involves a warranty relationship with either your customer or the supplier, you normally offer, let's say, 60 days or 90 days kind of workshop or repair warranty to say, well, I've come and fixed it. Obviously, that fix has some level of repair. But it could also be that even regardless of that, it might be that we are replacing a battery in a device that the customer has. Well, batteries have very strong regulatory requirements when it comes to service. That anybody replacing a battery must offer a minimum warranty well outside of any manufacturer's warranty that you do. And dynamic warranty allows us to just kind of get those little moments where the warranty rules are a little bit broken and allow them to come through. This applies to any labour, materials, subcontract or miscellaneous cost lines on your work order. So pretty much any data that you're passing through to your MCOs are going to be able to benefit from this. And it also is transferred to the supplier OEM claim. So anything I'm doing dynamically with the customer can be, if you want, also transferred to the supplier claim. What that means in practice is that typically we define warranty content. These are our rules when somebody is offered warranty on an equipment. Let's say we sell them an appliance or an equipment. Normally you get the manufacturer warranty, and it includes typically all labour and materials for, let's say, 12 months, and then you would have an extended warranty. Well, your service warranty, that sort of 60, 90 days that you might be offering, what we can say is anything to do with time, so things like the operation number, the department, the cost centre, but critically those OEM codes, so we can isolate. If I report that I used a symptom code of this, then I can treat that differently from a warranty perspective as if I chose a different symptom. But I can just say, pick up dynamically what I'm going to report on my work order and then produce that to my customer. So all I need to do is enter a value of one of these two values, and I'll come on to those in a sec. And then when we perform our work order, we get the actual values from our work order. So that means that if I do a service with 6 hours of labour and I've put 12 parts on that work order, I didn't need to define those 12, the warranty for those 12 parts over here. It just dynamically picked them up. So I'm only giving warranty for 6 hours of labour and those 12, specifically those 12 parts. And it could be that for 11 of those parts, actually it's still just covered under the manufacturer warranty because I'm still within that term. But the battery, as an example, actually needs a 90-day warranty record of its own, regardless of we're still in manufacturer warranty. And it allows us that dynamic warranty engagement. And we have two types. We have dynamic warranty and warranty on warranty. Dynamic warranty says if I perform that service but I'm still within an existing warranty period, effectively it does nothing, because what it says is the repair, if I have to go back and fix it again, will be covered under my manufacturer's warranty still. But if I look at warranty on warranty, and I'm thinking more of the battery here, even though I still have manufacturer's warranty for 3 more months, I want to give a specific warranty record just to the battery that I replaced, which is now going to be a new record. So in my warranty records for that serial number, I'll now have at least 2, my manufacturer's warranty and my dynamic warranty, specifically for that service. This is definitely going to improve your chances of supplier claim success. One of the biggest problems is that you guys effectively, because you don't have the functionality available, often give away warranty to the customer because it's too complex to try and make finite. But you often don't get the successful claim back to the OEM because they're like, look, if you can't be specific about what you did on your work order, then I can't give you your credit. And what this allows, the dynamic warranties, you're really, really going to be able to give the customer something specific, so you're not going to be giving away so much warranty cost, but you're going to improve your chances of the warranty claim with your supplier. And I've got a few more minutes. My personal favourite, the equipment life and register. And this is definitely probably the single most powerful piece of functionality in the equipment space as far as I'm concerned when I look at its application and who can benefit the most from this. Obviously, we all have BI, and you look at general profitability of your equipment, whether you're a rental company or you sell equipment, you're looking at its overall profitability. But you normally need to go into BI and create lots of various KPIs and reports to try and analyze that data. Well, M3, with a small tweak that takes literally about 15 minutes, will do it all for you, and it will enable you to, within M3, get a financial snapshot and transaction snapshot of the entire life of that particular serial number. So maybe you're in equipment sales. What we would first do is create a life. So this is a new sales model, right? So I've built it. I've now sold it to the customer. Effectively, this is install base, and I want to track its financial and transactional data over that life. But maybe they upgrade in 8 years' time and they have a trade-in model. That's now going to go into my used stock. It could go into my small rental fleet because it's still got life left. I can still earn some revenue through rental. And so I might want to create a new life that I can track that financial profitability and transaction history for. So we can separate, depending on the need, again for rental, new rental fleet, or its used fleet for sale, or maybe look at maybe the long-term project fleet. We have a lot of rental customers who do large projects. You're all probably familiar with the show Dancing on Ice. A lot of rental companies source and provide equipment to people like that, and literally they travel around the world with Dancing on Ice. And you might want to, and though it lasts maybe 6.5 years. If I'm a rental equipment dealer and I'm providing a project like that, I want to track the life cycle of those 6.5 years specifically, and I want to see that snapshot. So we can first do that equipment life, and then with a few tweaks and using the accounting model in M3, it's monitoring every single transaction that you're doing in M3, and it's collecting them, and it says, right, as the financials do the transactions, either externally or internally, it goes, is this serial number under an accounting model, yes or no? Oh, it is. I'm going to send it over to these files here, the profitability files, and I'm going to capture them, and then I'm going to summarize them in basically a single screen so I can see my revenue, my cost, and my margins year to date, over its life, or under any kind of a period that I want. And I'm thinking the application here, particularly for rental dealers, is that let's say you've got a fully depreciated asset after its 8 years depreciation, but it's still in kind of good nick. I want a gut feel as whether should I do a refurb? Should I maybe put some money back into this and give it a new lease of life? Or do you know what, this just needs to go into used because I think it's fair trade value for me just to sell this as a piece of equipment. And I want, rather than having to go into BI and do all that analysis, I just want an immediate snapshot. Maybe the service manager says, I've put in a work request to do an overhaul. And you go, all right, is it really worth it? I can quickly see what's my rental revenue been, what have my costs, how many services have I done, what types of services, do I still have warranty fund? And I can see that in one screen immediately in M3, so I can make a much more immediate decision. So with that in mind, here's an example of the equipment life. So for this serial number, I have 2 lives. The park location court, it lived there for 3 years, this machine, and I want to track that particular life. It's now traded in as used stock. I haven't sold it yet, but I am actually renting it out. So I'm now tracking under this second life its financial and transaction history. So we first create the life, and what it's happening is the equipment transaction register is looking at things like your stock transaction history and all of your transactions that you're performing, and it's isolating the ones that it's interested in. So here's the sales order it was sold on and the various different work orders that we've performed for that particular machine. It could be that you'll see distribution orders if we've transferred it internally to other business units or facilities. The analytical account balance file is measuring all of our normal accounting transactions. So we're doing these day to day. I run an invoice or I run internal accounting. That stuff is happening anyway, but because we've made some settings in M3, I'm now capturing for this given asset, this given serial number, the ones that I care about. And then what it does in the equipment transaction register is give me an immediate snapshot. So we bought this for £75,000. Its current trading value, according to the sales team, is about £30,000. We've got fair market price of £38,000. Replenishment cost, well, we purchased this from an OEM, so it's £75,000, the same as our purchase price. What's been our contract and sales revenue? What's been our service revenue? This particular example, we don't have rental revenue or the sale of the asset. We're looking at the costs, so the costs of those contract sales, and I'm thinking maintenance agreements mostly here. Service costs, so what repairs have we done? Could be asset depreciation, so obviously from a rental perspective, our major cost is depreciation, or the leasing cost for if we do leasings or if we have financial agreements. Cost of capital, where we've got our own cost of capital to be able to buy the fleet itself. And we measure all of these things and we capture them in one view. Down here I can see I've got £14 worth of outstanding warranty claim with my supplier. My standard warranty funds that probably the sales division have provisioned for warranty is still nice and healthy at £3,000, and my extended warranty fund is £1,200. So if I'm a guy wanting to make a quick decision on an asset, whether should I refurb it, should I sell it for used, or should I do something else with it, M3 can tell you pretty much all the insight you need to know immediately. It can just say, this is the position right now. We can see that position by its life. Now, of course, all this data is available in BI and various other reporting because it's just in it's data in M3. But I think that program alone is one of the single biggest valuable programs to any equipment business, whether rental or sales or other, because I can make an immediate decision on an asset based on this almost for free. It literally doesn't take long to just enable M3 to capture this data. So for me, key 5 is probably the heavyweight in this presentation and is my personal favourite. All right. Thanks for listening. Is there any questions? No? Great. Thanks for listening. I am here on behalf of Anthesis. So Anthesis, we have the stand through there in the Kingsley room, or you can contact us directly later if you want us to help out with any of these things here, whether during your project or whether you're already live. Give us a call, because I don't know if I'm quite passionate about this, and I think this stuff is really, really, really great. So yeah, do get in touch. And otherwise, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.